Welcome to the R.Y.S.E Movement Podcast, a place where legends just like you learn how to raise your standards every day. Welcome to another episode of the R.Y.S.E Movement Podcast. I'm Dave and I'm joined with my good friend Chris. Thank you for being here with us, brother.
Pleasure.
We are going to dive into Chris's story and all of the cool things that he's up to at the moment. We're in for a treat. Chris is an amazing human, massive heart, extremely intelligent, very connected, and he's just an awesome dude.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you for joining us, my bro.
Pleasure, brother. Genuinely.
Where do you want to start?
It's a great question. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, okay. Feels right to start where I was already... Yeah, okay, cool. So I'll start with my introduction to men's work. I feel like starting there because it was a great time for me, or even my awareness of what is men's work, or what is that, how that could look. Brotherhood, call it that, community of men being supported by other men. Men that I had no idea who they are, never met them before in my life. That type of idea even, concept. So that time in my life, I was, if I was to go back in age-wise, I'm not great with the years, so this is what I do in age-wise. I'm currently now, so you guys can do the math back home, it's currently 2024, I'm 38. I would have been 28, yeah, around that sort of age. So about 10 years ago. Just working out the math in my head. Yeah, probably around the 28. Maybe even closer to 30 anyway, around there. So on that, already on that stage, at that stage of my life, I'd already gone through a couple of different things with physical health. Had ballooned out to over 120 kilos through unconscious eating, and eating through my at the time was just eating all the stuff that I'd never thought had never been in my availability. I'd gotten a little bit of money and I was available to all that sort of stuff. Not conscious about anything that I was doing. So I'd gone along that journey, been introduced to supplementation in the gym world, had my own story around it being expensive. And in my instance, I guess, okay. So I'd already gone on the physical journey, basically. Had peaks and valleys in my physical, had gotten fit for it was after my first fight. So I'd already had my first fight. So I'd gotten myself in like peaks. I had my first 3 fights were pretty close together. So I'd had this ups and downs of physical health where I'd done in the gym and then dropped away, still drinking alcohol, doing these things, got into a fight camp, training, loving Muay Thai, got into like fight camp type society of like running every morning, running every afternoon was what we were doing. I was training back then at Boonshu, so Wayne, very big philosophy of his is running for being mentally and physically fit for your fight, that if you've got strong legs, then your legs won't go away up from underneath you. So it was a big thing, and that was completely new for me. I'd been a person at that stage that held this story that I couldn't run, and I had huge problems with shin splints when I was younger. Thankfully, along that journey, I'd met some people that taught me a couple of stretches that now shin splints don't exist, and these sorts of things. So I was confident then, okay, yeah, I can run, and I know that if shin splints do come back, I remember this time that I got taught this stretch on how to work through that stuff. So I was confident to go, yeah, let's do it. Loving Muay Thai. Had a couple of fights, so got myself down to a nice, what I fought at 82 kilos, super lean. Like my legs were always strong and muscular from carrying extra weight. But my top half, like almost like the typical young Muay Thai fighter, no chest, no arms, just lean. wasn't the best nutrition. At the time, the cutting weight side of things was almost like an extended fast without any awareness around it or anything like that. It was sort of like starve yourself. A starvation, probably the best way to call it.
Yep.
Get ready for fights type thing, and then rehydrate and eat whatever the fuck you sort of want and go that sort of way. So like I said, I'd done that sort of stuff. And throughout my life up until that point, sort of unconsciously looking for male role models in different areas of my life, in business, in personal life, extended family. Had a lot of different mentors, some male influence that I thought were good at the time, then led me down different roads, others in business that took advantage of me. Was still very much in I can use language now, of a heavy role of like people pleasing, wanting to like make everyone else happy. And I was actually, I just was leading up to coming more, I'd started doing some breath work. So I was starting to become aware that there was more available to me than just this physical world. Starting to become aware that I can control my nervous system and fuel my body on more than just the food I put in, and that perhaps things aren't as expensive as what I thought if I can use some natural things and use the things that I do have access to a better way. So basically at the point I was at, I was like, yeah, okay, physical body's I'm getting the grip of this sort of thing. Starting to become aware of like breath and the power of being able to hold my own emotions and work through my own emotions, and emotions are just, energy in motion, and using my breath to go through different things. And still, and noticing that at times I'd had great male role models come into my life, people that I didn't have a clue who they were, and I saw a trait in them that I idolised, and then so I was sort of drawn to them. And I'm very grateful that my mum instilled in me as a child that to treat others how you want to be treated. So, like, that was sometimes like, the people please a little bit too much. And also it helped me be as a rudder, that if I saw the way someone was treating other people, I had a couple of like, mishaps and other business ventures and career things where I'd seen also that like I'd been hurt basically. So I'm in my late 20s, early 30s. I've seen a little bit, so I could filter things out, right? But still, the only way that I really had brotherhood was either if I was paying them, so if they were a trainer. When I'd done boxing gym, and then at the Muay Thai gym, started to get like, bros that were on the same journey, like we're all training together. Still noticing, as I'm looking back, like there were still things that, everyone is still independent. But when we're at the gym, okay, we leave all that shit behind. It's the typical sort of gym story, right? Leave all your shit behind you when you're at the gym. When you're at the gym, we're all here just to support each other and grind type thing, right? And I loved that. And a brother, a mentor that I'd been seeing, he'd been a beautiful brother that had introduced me to, I'd met him through breath work, and he introduced me to sound healing, and he introduced me to cacao. And so, and we both born on the same day, and I was like, all these synchronicities of beautiful things, right? And I'd go on these beautiful journeys, and I started learning a bit more about myself and learning a bit more about the interconnectability of that. We're all just, I started to become aware that like other people, I'm not in a void, basically. The things that I've felt, other people have felt. And it may look, feel, sound different. However, the core elements of it in the physical body, or what was left on how they felt, was the same as how I felt in different ways. It may look different, but hang on, you still felt sad, or you still felt guilt or shame or something around it, right? And I was and I actually did an elemental program with him, and I learned a bit more about the elements, how the different elements work. And I was like, this is great. And it's starting to go into more spiritual stuff. Yeah, this is cool. And he actually goes to me, he goes, bro, have you ever done any like men's work? Ever thought about men's work? And I was like, what is that? Didn't know anything about it. And I was like, well, what is that? And he's like, oh, like it's basically doing a lot of stuff you've done and you're doing now and the stuff you're interested in, yet it's like we have these great epic chats about things when I'm with him. And I'm noticing I've got to keeping it on the topic because you're paying me, so I've got to keep going back to the thing, right? Which I'm grateful that he did that and was honest and authentic in that. But I feel like a men's circle, man, would be good for you, bro. And I held this person in great regard. I was like, yeah, I still do. Okay, cool. What does that look like? And I got introduced to, at the time, was Mankind Project, MKP, as it's commonly known. And I'm like, oh, what do? They just, that men hold space for men. And I was familiar with holding space. I've done breath work. And so I was familiar with holding space in the breath work scene, which I'm grateful that's the way I learned it there, was also when going through deep processes, in holding space for me. I recently did a live about this, is in breathing and staying present with my own stuff, with whatever's happening around me, controlling my own nervous system and my own environment with my breath. And then the power then that can have in that calmness and stillness, which I'd witnessed in breath events, right? It's people were doing a bunch of like rebirthing breath work or like circular breathing, a lot of energy, a lot of stuff can come up. And I'd gone on this beautiful journey and come out in this space just through breath of like connected to love and feeling this, like my heart fully open, and I was just like loving everyone in the room. And it was amazing. And the breath instructor was just like, just stay present with your breath. If you go to the bathroom, come back, stay with the breath at a calmer pace now. Because it was quite intense. It was like 2.5 hours at the time of breathing. And I've come back in this room, and this was my first sort of time of experiencing this. I'd had like cannabis experiences, but nothing like this, where I was just like, I'd look over at the mentor, and he's like, just, walk around. Oh, okay. And I'd walk around and sit next to someone who's, maybe they're going through something, expressing like an emotion. No judgment on it, it was just they were expressing an emotion. And I just sat with beside me, he's like, just breathe. So I'd just sit beside them and just continue doing my breathing. And then I'd notice that they would shift, and the energy would shift, and then it'd go from wherever they're at, they'd end up in this, basically almost matching mine, where they'd just be like in this loving energy and be happy, and the smile would come on their face. And then I'd be like, ooh, go to the next person. And I felt like I was like this little, like going around just setting people off. So people were, wherever they were, I'd just be like this resonance of like holding, now I know it's vibration, this sort of thing, right? And I'm just bringing them out of where they're at, not being a facilitator, I think, but just sitting there and holding space, was just allowing them, their nervous system to relax. Unconsciously now I'm well aware that they, it's the breath and all the things, right? So I'd witnessed it in breath, basically. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to go, I've been introduced now to men's work. I know that if whatever comes up, that I can do this, I can just hold my own breath and witness what comes up for me. So I went to an event, and it was very familiar at the start. There was like a Palo Santo or like sage, I think it was, being burnt. And I'd already, might have even been a little bit later when I got introduced. I might have been like 32, 33, because I'd already built a relationship with Palo Santo, which I'd been introduced to. Yes, I'd already had spiritual experiences, already done quite a bit. Men's work was quite late for me, actually. I'd already been to Peru and spent time. I think I'd already been to Peru, spent time with Shipibo shaman, done a full plant dieta of 2 weeks in the jungle. I'd already done breath work facilitation training. I had done quite a bit, gone into fighting, peak health experience, stepped back from fighting, gone back into old ways of drinking, and then stepped back from drinking, had these different patterns. And it got reiterated to me about the men's work, and it had been mentioned a few times, and I was like, oh, yeah, it's on a Tuesday night. I'd always seem to have, oh, no, I've got training on that night. Like, so it had been in my field, but I'd never actually walked in. The day I remember now that I actually walked in, it had been years had passed now since I'd been aware of it, right? I knew of a great brother who was regularly doing it, and that was his thing, like relationship style coaching, and he was like, worked on the masculine and the feminine, and my perception at the time was like, whoa, a lot of sexual energy, and also I love the way he holds it, and I love the work he's doing there. It's still a bit edgy, so I didn't actually walk into the door. By the time I actually walked into the door, yeah, I'd already done quite a lot. So I was in my own thing. I was like, I had like a lot of tools already in my tool belt that I could, okay, if I need to, I could just breathe through stuff, and that's cool. And I rocked up, and I remember they were burning some sage, and then they were looking for Palo Santo, couldn't find any, and I still do. I carry it around with me, and I was like, oh, bro, I've got some. So then I felt like I've rocked up to my first day, and I'm able to help out. So there's my like wanting to help out, and cool. So I was able to like hand over Palo Santo, and the initial part was there was this beautiful piece of like cleansing, or it's just clearing and setting, like letting go. It's the way that energetically used to just let go of whatever you've been walking around in the day to really become present of where you are here. And that's the tool that they use, right? I was like, cool, great. They then we all formed a circle, and it was, all right, they brought in, did a little ceremony of like gratitude for the land we're on and the elements. So again, familiar. Yeah, great. Elements, yeah, I'm familiar with the elements, done some stuff with that. North, south, east, west, great. Father, Son, Mother Earth, yeah, great. This is all familiar for me, right? And then we went into the room and circle, and this was the first time I got introduced. It was a check-in. They do a round check-in. Everyone checks in. And I was like, okay, one men model it, and I was like, great. And I'm just breathing, trying to just on my own, okay, staying centered and just being open to breath, staying present of my own breath, and letting this go around the circle. And I noticed how much was already coming up for me just in witnessing other men, because some men went deep pretty straight away in their check-in. I'm feeling, whether it was somewhere like, great, I'm feeling joyful, I'm feeling great gratitude for being here. Others, it's like, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling guilty. And it was avoiding story, so it was just speaking to the emotion, and if it was in the body, where it was in the body type thing, but pretty much just speaking to the emotion, no story. So you could say you were feeling guilty, but you couldn't say what you're feeling guilty for. You could say you were feeling sad, you couldn't say why you're feeling sad. And I'd never been in this sort of space. I noticed myself instantly being like, why is he feeling guilty? Like a people pleaser wanting to know, maybe I could help this brother. I've already got all these tools in my belt, but like, maybe I could help this brother. And then it got to me, and I was like, oh. And I was like, okay, how do I feel? And I'm grateful that I had the brother that I looked up to. When I was there, with the relationship side of things. Oh, okay. And he's like, yeah, brother. He knew I knew breath work. And I was like, coach me through. He's like, just use your breath and feel what's alive for you. And I remember the first time I ever did that, I was like, oh, okay, I feel a little bit tightness in my belly. I can remember bits of it. Oh, I feel a bit tight. I do feel happy that I'm here. And they coach me through, like, oh, brother, what's deeper than happy, right? And it actually went to, I was feeling scared. And then a fear came up, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I hadn't acknowledged that. I was like in this love and light sort of world of almost what I now know is almost spiritual bypassing, right? Yeah. And I was like, oh, yeah, I am happy that I'm here because I've finally shown up. Yeah, that's true. And something that I knew I wanted to do, but I was like, oh. Underneath was like a fear. I can't remember how far I actually went. And I was like, all right, cool. And it was, and then we went through greater things. And in that moment, I remember that very first men's circle I spoke into, which is the first time I'd ever verbally spoke into, owning how I'd cheated on my exes. And how even porn addiction was still something I was heavily in then. was something that was a form of cheating, and also on how it actually physically like lied about different things and cheated and spoke into the guilt and shame that I was feeling around that. And this was the first time that I ever spoke into that. And it was very powerful for me to even voice it. And at the same time, for me, it was that transformative. And at the same time, I also witnessed other men, being told, oh, brother, you've been showing up now for 2 years and you're still showing the same thing. So then there was this other part of me that's going, this is great, and also maybe there's more here. Because this isn't, like, I was like fast tracking, and now I know this is what my body does instantly, which can be a superpower and a curse. It'll be like, okay, cool, so you've admitted that, and then my brain and body goes instantly through every single time that I've ever felt that and starts to like catalog, and then it'll work on to, okay, cool, in relation to that specifically, and then it'll bring all that up, and I was able to use my breath and work through it. Do you need any support, brother? I think I did an accountability piece with them on like speaking into it. I can't remember exactly what my accountability piece was, but there was an accountability piece there. There was also a piece where a brother went something deeper and we all held. So it was like I got introduced to what it's like to be seen, to be heard by other brothers, by other men of all ages. There was some elders there, like uncles, and some younger guys there, 18, 19 sort of guys there as well. And noticed how great it was to be in a space that no judgment, that everyone's got their own shit, and there was no real coaching per se in that. It was more a space to be heard, to be seen. And if something that was really alive for a brother, or an emotion really was like taking hold of them, they'd get the opportunity to release that. And how that could look with men supporting that. Say there's one man facilitating, but then having other men and brothers supporting that with the intention of just holding that space for it. Because like I said, I'd had experiences with this in like the breathwork side of things. That was like a collective, right? And I'd had experiences in one-on-one and also in sound healings and stuff where, okay, there's one person there. But my perception at that time was that there's one person facilitating and everyone else is doing their own individual journeys. Not realizing that, yes, that's happening, and also at the same time we're all holding each other as well, right? It's still something that hadn't even quite landed for me. And it sparked a big thing in me, like, oh, okay, this is awesome. This is awesome, cool. And I was like, yeah, there's more here. There's more here in this. And so I would have been, really bringing back, I wouldn't have been in my 20s. I would actually have been in my 30s. Probably it would have been 3 years ago from now. I was, 35? So I would have probably been like 32 when I had this experience. And then about 2 years, I floated in and out. Occasionally I popped into a setting, other times I didn't. And I was continued doing what I would just call life. Right? I'd do a bit of training, do a bit of everything. And yet I was always like, the men's circles, and I went back a couple of times, but something still just felt a little bit off for me. It was like, this isn't exactly for me. This is a great thing and it's amazing, and I support the brothers that do it. And I was like, my motto has always been, how deep is the rabbit hole, right? So I want to go deeper, and this really is amazing and I love it. It feels very surfacey though. I want to go deeper. And they had Mankind Project, they have their like scales of escalation and going to their weekends. It just didn't feel right. And for one time in my life, when something didn't feel right, I left it as the no. In other areas of my life, sometimes I hadn't listened to that. But in this area, as I look back on it, I did. I was like, oh, it doesn't feel right. Whether it's not right for me right now, or whether there's something else, okay, cool. And also I can see at the time I was in a relationship that was toxic. And that a relationship that I knew, toxic in the fact that I knew in my heart of hearts that I couldn't see a future going further. And yet I had all these stories and stuff, and I kept hanging around, trying to be a savior. I was trying to do, maybe there's just all these different stories, right? And I was hanging around, and yet continued to work on myself. Yet was almost like ignoring this masculine side of myself. So I like working on a lot of light masculinity type stuff, like working on spirituality, dropping into plant medicines, dropping into spirit, like energies of animals, and all these beautiful areas of my life, just ignoring my physical side of me being a man, ignoring that. Still had this porn addiction coming and going at times, and it would ramp up. Very, like if training dropped, it would ramp up, which I've now learned is like a big dopamine thing, right? The body's just craving the dopamine. At the time, I wasn't aware of that was what was happening. It was all unconscious. And it wasn't until towards the end of that relationship where I had brothers call me out and bro, what, like, you know, support me in it, and supportingly be like, you need to end that relationship, brother. From what you just told me and everything, like, you've even just told me that you can't see it, so why are you still there? And I'm like, I don't know. Oh, shit. And then I wouldn't have the balls to fucking stand up and actually speak my truth. And I was self-medicating with cannabis at the time in an unhealthy way of using it as an avoidant, right? I could just come home, I could train my ass off, then come home, I use it as like, my body's tired, need to recover. I've worked a 10-hour day, then done 3 hours of training in the afternoon. Yeah, okay, I'm tired. And I would do that 6 days a week. And then when it came time to intimacy with my partner, I would just obliterate myself. Not even obliterate, like I'd have one or two. Like, it wasn't crazy, but it was still enough that I would disassociate from really connecting with her. Because I deep down didn't have a desire to do that at the time. I couldn't see this at the time. But I was using cannabis to be like an excuse. Then I'd just be relaxed and then just fall asleep and be sleeping next to someone. And would have times of intimate, I would go do something or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, this is great. And then it would, out of those peak moments, then I'd be back in it, like, there'd be other red flags coming up, This isn't what I want. I need to work on this part of myself. I need to work on this because I don't like this part of myself. And I'd already had this awareness, right? If I don't like something, what has it got to learn from me? How have I got to teach from it? And I was still in it. And then I got to a point where I was like, I'd learned a few more beautiful things. I hadn't learned NLP or hypnosis yet, like the really unconscious mindy stuff yet. Yet through all my other plant medicines and these sorts of things, they were fucking screaming at me, right? And as they would, and mushrooms would, all these things would show me these things. And I'd be like, okay, well, what is it? And I was openly honest. I was like, look, the relationship started to turn where instead of breathwork being, I was doing everything in a vacuum, right? My partner didn't accept it, didn't like it, so I'd go do it by myself. Even got introduced to Tantra and Tantric energy and had a beautiful experience there of breath through that. And I was like, oh, okay, so there is more here to it, but I did that in shadow. I didn't tell my partner, didn't express it with her. And then all of a sudden something happened in her where, and this is a fucking great lesson for men a lot of the time, is then, at the time I wasn't aware of any of this sort of stuff, but someone else had said the same thing that I'd been saying to her from a feminine, and she received it, right, on the breathwork side of things. And then she's had interest in it. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, oh, mate, cool, maybe I can. Yet what really started highlighting to me was that, oh, now I'm becoming her coach. Do I want this person to be a client, or do I want to be my lover? And I was like, you really need to get help with this. And I actually knew a lot of people. I was like, I can refer you to beautiful people. And you've met a couple I've seen on Instagram that you're watching their stuff. Reach out to them. Like, this is an opportunity now for you to do this. And there was always other stories that kept coming up. And I finally drew a line in the sand and said, look, no, I'm going to end this relationship, because where it's at right now, things only really happen when I put my foot down. And I can also see that, like, it's when the man actually shows up in his masculine and holds that space of, no, this is a boundary, then the woman's able to, like, soften a little bit and surrender to it, right? But even then I was like, I need to call this quits. I can't see a future in it. I do love you, and still do have this beautiful love. And I guess it was a gift and a curse from some of the plant medicine stuff, knowing that we're all connected and that I can love all beings, and that I can love, and I could see, I have this beautiful ability to be able to see the person for who they are and where they're at, and know that they're not their behaviors, and can see even the generational stuff, and through meeting family members and that, can see, okay, this is how the person's got to where this person is now. And yet also knowing that I can't force that person to change. They need to choose, lead the horse to water. You can't make them drink, right? I could swing the door open the door. They've still got to take that step through it. That sort of analogies, right? And it wasn't happening. And I drew the line in the sand and said, no, we're going to end this 100% now. And I wanted to do this from, like, the most healthiest way I could, without in the past of being like, it's not you, it's me, or just cheating and then saying, no, it's over, or something like that. I was like, no, I'm going to change that pattern. And I'm actually going to speak up with what's right, what's feeling right for me right now. I know I've got more stuff I need to work on. And to do that, I want to work on it on my own. And there's stuff that you're sharing to me that you want to work on, that I'm not available to work on that with you. As being in a relationship, I now know there are certain things that are partnership in my current relationship and other things, certain things that are great you can work with your partner. And then there's also certain things that are not available with your partner, that you need an external, you need a brother, a sister, an uncle, an auntie, an elder, someone else that you can talk about it and go through it, because there is unconscious patterns happening, because you're in a relationship. There is these things that are formed, and that can get very, very messy if you're just in a vacuum or with your partner, right? And I was aware of that, and coming into aware of a lot of tribalism stuff that, like, ancestrally we never had. You don't do everything just not just you and your wife or you and your partner till you die. That's not how it works. There would be times where the men would go do stuff together as men, and the women would go do stuff together as women, and then we would come back together, and then then we would unify on what we both learned, then share on that, reflect on that, grow through that, and then that divine union grow even more beautifully, right, together. So I was aware of this sort of stuff. And so I drew the line and said, no, I'm going to end it. And as soon as I did that, it was like, oh, yeah, men's work. Now this is a chance. Now I don't have any, there's no excuse. There's no partner at home going, why aren't you home? Because I didn't want to speak into what I was doing because of this shame that she wouldn't understand it. And even if I did explain it and take the time, which I did sometimes, she wasn't at the awareness at that time to even receive it. So then if someone's not able to receive it and I speak into it, then I know then that I don't feel heard, I don't feel seen. So at the time that I was in then, I'd go back into story that, well, what's the point of fucking talking about it? This person doesn't even tell me blatantly, I don't understand that. And rather than, and almost like, I don't want to understand that. I had this limiting belief of like, no, this is the way I am. And when someone's in that mode, now I know, it's like, okay, let them be where they are. That's not what, it's not, they put a wall there for a reason to make themselves feel safe. And now I have different ways of communicating it and different things, right? But then I didn't.
Yep.
Where I was at, authentic. Cool. So I called it off and I went into, I was like, okay, great. Now I can work on myself a bit more, right? Okay, cool. So I got my own pad. I live with a brother and I was like, okay. I was almost like, maybe I do a bit of debauchery, like conscious debauchery, like just see what's out there, play with, because I had, from porn and from these other things, I had these unconscious things that I wanted to explore. And I was like, now knowing I have access to these tantric communities, I have these beautiful things around to me, maybe now this is a time to grow that. Yet when it came to the 11th hour of, okay, I'm going to go to this event or that, it was still, something said no. So I was like, okay. And in my house was another symbolism of environment. Things came into my environment, other awarenesses of like ADHD medication came in. This person had it as a medication, offered it to me one time, and I was like, I haven't used this shit since I was a kid. Now I've done all this spirituality work, and I wonder what it's like. Well, I know now what speed feels like from a conscious level. I know you have the medical side of it. For me, someone who, I guess, if you use the language neurotypical in that aspect, when I had it, I had the stereotypical responses of taking speed. Right? No real consciousness of my breath. I didn't even look for that. I was just in this surrender to what's happening. And I just allowed what was happening, and through that came, and actually it was interesting. I got an opportunity. The person was actually like another energy came into the field of another person expressing another energy. I'll just put it that way for now. And I got a chance to witness that. And what it highlighted for me was I want to do more work on my masculine. There's times when I'm in my masculine and I feel great. And there's times in medicine where I've been in my masculine, or I'm embodying an animal, or I've done some primal work. But it's time to really look at this stuff. And the same brother that had been, like I said, we shared the birthday, had been through it. I'm like, hey brother, I know before when you did men's work, but there's one guy in the field who, if I was to do men's work, I feel like he's one I'd reach out to. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I held him at like, I was still in a level of like, I'd hold people at pedestals and pit, right?
Yeah.
A bit of that. So I was like, how do you want this pedestal? I was like, great. And this is how it serves me. I was like, oh, cool. Thank you. And I reached out and went to, and this is where everything sort of had changed. Because I'd been on my own then and started working on, okay, so I disconnected, worked all these relationship sort of patterns from that level. Worked what's unconscious, what's not really working for me. That, okay, if I go in, I was at this place that if I go into another relationship, I'm going to speak up what's alive for me. I'm going to work, like I want to talk about the things. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least I spoke about the things. And knowing that I'm going to make mistakes, and that if I make mistakes, at least if I'm speaking, at the time I was like, at least if I speak truth, then maybe I got a chance to meet someone from that place. And it's funny because I was like, all right, I'm going to go to this event. It was a 3-day event, 2.5-day event, and dive deep into men's work. Again, like I'm not just going to keep going to these meetings. There's a 3-day event where we get to work on the masks that we wear and get to do some unconscious work. Oh, and there's breathing there. Great. I'm aware of that stuff, right? So there was a couple of things that felt safe, and there was some edgy things. All right, we're going to work on the masks. We're going to do some ownership. We're going to build our own fires. We've got a leading up to it. Had a couple of beautiful practices that we had of like collecting our own timber, having it with us, writing out some things we want to let go of, or shadow, or not even really language of shadows. It was just past behaviours or anything, even if it was anything we had guilt on, anything we had shame on, we want to get rid of it, write it all down, carry it with the timber that was next to your bed and was with us for like a couple of weeks prior. And then knowing that when we get to the event, we're going to get a chance to make a fire with it and burn it, all right? And if there's anything else you want to burn to release anything, rah. And I was like, oh yeah, cool. This is epic. And I went full into this event. And it changed if I was to say, it was a big pivotal moment for me. Because in that event, yes, I worked through a lot of things. I got to also own a lot of the beautiful things that I had done up to then, own the part of me that was really good at holding space through using breath work. That I noticed when I learnt a lot of the breathwork stuff, it didn't feel like learning. Like it didn't feel like school. In that when I'm learning something at school, it was a struggle to retain it. And then yet if I kept doing it like math, okay, yep, sweet, then I could get it. It felt like a remembrance.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. And so after a couple of years of learning breathwork and then, doing different breathwork practices while I was driving and doing different things like this of breath awareness, and I almost forgot, and I do this where I learn something new and then I go on like a parrot mode of repeating it all. And then that's my integration phase. And then once I've integrated it, then I almost don't say shit about it in the past. Because I'll be like, oh, everyone knows this, right? Everyone knows this. I feel like I'm just repeating stuff. And so I'd in the past, I'd just close up about it and wouldn't talk about it. Do it on my unconscious level. Even started doing it when I was around people that were drinking. Started introducing it in all these different areas of my life. I started cutting things off, but wouldn't talk into it because I had these fears that they're going to judge me as Chris the hippie.
Yep.
And these sorts of things, right? So then when I went to this men's circle and I could just be me, I could be me in everything. I could be authentically me and show up to release, create, physically make the mask of all the things and walk around, be seen in that. And then did some beautiful process around burning in that as well and going through that. And did some masculine body. We did a sock wrestling competition, right? It's quite I've seen it now in quite a few men's circles. They do like wrestling type things, or some even do on an unhealthy level, do fighting where people end up getting knocked out and shit. No concussion is a good concussion, man.
No,
anyway.
no TBI, CTE, none of that's good.
None of that's good, right? Let's avoid that. So wrestling is a great area to do that. It was sock wrestling, where you each have one sock on, and the idea is to get the sock off the other brother, right? So it's a chance to really embody that masculine, being held by all the other men around, and I won that. Right? I did it. Okay, cool. I have advantages. I've got long arms, right? Long things. And I had been training Muay Thai, so I was well aware of body awareness. And I'd been watching MMA and learning, never trained any mixed martial arts, but had been watching it since fucking UFC conceived, UFC maybe 15 or something like that from the early days. So I was well aware of sprawling and these sorts of things. So I could sprawl. People would shoot from my foot and I'd just sort of sprawl and put weight on their head, push their head to the ground. And also it was fun because I'm like, your head's in the dirt, right, type thing, right? And then and having long legs, kick my foot away and be able to reach for their sock, right? First couple were easy like that. The third one was the final, right? It was the boss battle, and it was another brother who was physically fit, quite masculine as well, similar sort of range, not quite as long as me, similar sort of, it was very much. And it was a back and forth, until eventually he almost got my sock off and I got his off. So we won split second before, right? And then he pulled my sock off, and throughout that wrestle, I dislocated my toe. It was this epic moment that I was like, yeah, what? And then looked down at my toe and everyone's like, oh, your toe's on this. And I'm like, can someone straighten it? I'd already had that awareness. I'd broken toes and stuff doing Muay Thai.
Yep.
At this stage, I'd probably had 6 or 7 fights over a 5-year span. I was like, oh, my toe's dislocated.
Yep.
And I'd stepped into leadership in a bit more Muay Thai stuff, coaching. And so I would do this in other areas and be like a brother to other men there, but I want to learn more of it so I can really work on my stuff, and then then I can share it, right? And yeah, through that day, they fixed my toe and everything. It was fun also noticing how some people that was a big thing for them. Oh shit, your toe's dislocated. Oh, you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. It's all good. Once you put it back in place, it's gone, right? The pain's gone. There's some ache and swelling, but I was like, I'll just breathe and it's fine. And I was wearing barefoot. And cool, right? That was the big catalyst for me, that event. Because it was a time that I'd done a lot of the work leading up to that, but I hadn't actually fully embodied my masculine in a place that I could feel I could do that. And I did that, and it was seen, and I was like, yeah. And then we did this beautiful ceremony at the end where we performed a haka, which translates to dance. We didn't do the kamati because there's a whole energetics around the kamati. One was created. We created one. It was the elder that was running it. It was Māori background, so he helped us create it, and he got beautifully. He got the guidance from his mum and all this sort of stuff as well, and this sort of stuff. So we created one for the event, which is great. We just created a choreographed dance, to translate it to English. Create a choreographed dance with the energetics of giving gratitude to our ancestors above, the Mother Earth, and gratitude to the spirit of like the wind and like basically the elements and everything in the language of Māori, which was great. And an embodiment, we created dance. So his background, the man facilitating, he was Māori, but he was also, he had done stripping and was very confident and had done like manpower and choreographed dances all around the world. So he was comfortable in creating dance moves and these sorts of things too. And basic stuff too, right? So we could just do basic sort of, and it was fucking epic. A good way to like really engage that primal energy, right? And that was the big boom point. There I actually met my partner, who's now my partner. There was this beautiful ceremony at the end where the women witnessed the men, which resembled the ancient ways of when the men would go, there's a whole story into it, but where the men would go to war or go for a hunt. And when they would come back from their hunt, they would be greeted, or the war, they would be greeted outside of the village by the feminine. And then there they would be held and be washed down by the feminine. And it was energetically a chance to release any emotions, sadness, guilt, shame, anything that had came up throughout the hunt or throughout the war, and physically be washed down. So the women would then wash off the blood and sort of thing. So for us, we did like where the women got to like wash our feet sort of thing. It was energetically symbolizing that. Before then, so then that's done outside of the tribe, and then together the masculine and feminine would then enter the tribe. Okay, so then here's the spoils, okay, we won the war, or here's the meat and that we got back from the hunt. Then the men can just show up as their men. So then in front of the whole community, then they're not showing up. There's no PTSD then. You've worked through the traumas, you've worked through everything, they're being supported, and now we're able to come into the community and celebrate, a time of celebration now. And beautifully, the event was then hosted. Then we had people from the outside, friends and family, and we had a beautiful hangi that we'd done as well. There's a whole ceremony around that as well. I won't go into now, it's quite in depth. Another time, definitely, that I've been taught that. So we had a beautiful hangi, was able then to provide, then as the men, then to be able to provide the food for everyone from the mother, from the earth. So that was like the ending of like this beautiful event. And for me then, that then sparked me, then I went deep with this brother who was the facilitator. We ran events regularly. I went to several different workshops with him. We then ran our own full day events with the intention of getting boys and fathers to connect back with each other and through play and through fun, introduce things at a nice base, like nice introductory level, and then also have an opportunity to share an emotion in that at the end too, where we did a little mini hero's journey, you could say, for people that have never done anything like that. And we started doing stuff like that. So I got this opportunity, and I met amazing other brothers, elders, uncles, aunties, and it's changed my whole life now that I have all these beautiful and I'm continuing to do these things now. And I'm now in this space where it's also got me to show up in facilitation, show up in co-facilitation. It started off, and then now I'm in this space of, okay, I can facilitate these things, and I've facilitated my own events now. Facilitated ice baths, facilitated breathwork events, ice and breath, help facilitate mindset events and these sorts of things in the gym scenarios, and then even got introduced to doing some stuff with corporate, getting him to do at a corporate event, getting him was at in a steelworks factory, getting the workers to feel it, like go through a Muay Thai type session where it's cool, get a bit of a sweat up, and then got to choose an emotion that then they got to let out to like me holding a pad for them, and they just got to feel that, men and women, to feel that, and then get an opportunity to release it and keep doing it until it felt released, and we held that space. So I got to introduce to that. So it just opened my awareness a lot more. And it's this journey that I'm on now, where now, more recently, the clarity has really, I can actually see like my why I'm here. And why I'm here is to create a better world for our future generations. And it sounds, even when I say it, I notice it's like, oh, it sounds a bit corny or whatever. And I don't, it is though. It's really what it is. And that, whether that's my kids and my grandkids, great. I'll get that opportunity one day in the future. And also right now, it's like there's a lot of stuff's come into my awareness and my field on the stuff that is happening in the world. And I was like, great, that's my well, what's actionable? What's actionable for me right now? And that is, well, where does it start basically? It starts with the men, right? It starts with the men standing up as men and working through their shit, their stories, their past traumas, being supported by other men, so then they can stand in their authentic language of authentic masculine, or just stand true to who they are as a being, without, and noticing when things are stories, and noticing when, oh, that's a past, something from my granddad that I picked up, or something that mum I picked up, or I do this to women because that's how dad treated women, or I do this to women because that's how mum loved me, so that's how I think I get love. And a chance to work on this stuff. And this stuff has been so passionate to my heart that it was like, I just want to give this shit away. And then this other side of me, the business, and I've recently done all the businessy, I've done some business courses, and I've done NLP and hypnosis and other, and trauma-informed training, and now conscious sexuality training. And all these things all feel aligned towards that goal, because we need to, like, it's all the energetic bodies, right? The sexuality, the energetic body, the plants, the nature, all these different things. So I've learnt, like, had opportunities to connect in with these fields, not learnt as in I know them, but have a conscious comprehension of them, and then still have connections to continue to grow that, right? So, but they're well established. If I was to look at it as like a garden, so like say that was like my fruits or my vegetables, I've got them all like they're trees now, and they've got fruit on them, right? And they're growing into an orchard, or they're like centropical rainforest, right? And they're growing, cool. And all right, I've got all these different hats that I can put on, but to my heart is the men's work stuff. So I was like, all right, well, that's the first actionable piece. And this is a free piece, because I want to give this away, right? Because I've been in a lot of different other men's circles, and I've connected with other beautiful brothers, and there's this, what I've witnessed and what I experienced was there's almost a lot of the stuff that's out there felt out of reach for myself when I first started. Like, even for me, it felt out of reach, right? 10 years ago, I was starting doing breath work on stuff, but men's work felt out of reach. It wasn't something that resonated with me then. So I was like, how do I create what the men's work that would resonate to myself 10 years ago? When I had an awareness that I wanted to continue to grow, and I don't know how that looks. So I created Men's Growth. I was like, I'm just going to create a Facebook group. And with that intention, I did a live on it, and I'm going to do more. I do more on it now regularly. And I've created a Facebook group for that, and we have a regular call that's free. Everything on there is free, and that we do on the Tuesday night. And moving forward, I'm going to host workshops and toolbox talks and these sorts of things, and then to share all wisdoms and tools with the men. At the moment, it is exclusively for men because I feel that's where it starts. There is a piece, there's the men doing men's work, women doing men's work, and then there's a beautiful piece coming together and holding that space for each other and beautiful healing in that. And that is that next beautiful piece, right? Yet there's also a lot of men out there that aren't ready to work with a feminine yet. They've got to work on themselves. So, and I kept seeing this play, not quite things that I would have gone to. So what have I learned? That if something's not there, maybe it's my turn to create that thing, right? So I created it. And I was like, great, I'm going to do that for free. And I'm going to do this for free. It's all for free. And even my voice goes, oh, for free. And I'm like, oh, but what about, you've still got to eat, bro. And you want to travel the world. And there's beautiful elders that you have opportunities to meet all over the world that you've connected with. And how do I do that? And I was like, surrender. Surrender to it, knowing that I'm speaking my truth and that this is something that I want to do and it is passion. Everything else will work out. At the same time, I stepped into disability support work because I was like, why do I want disability support work? Well, I want felt life experience of some of these things that I hadn't with myself. So I want to see addiction at its rawest and its ugliest. I want to see what the system looks like. I've had awareness of the system, medical system, healthcare system, these sorts of things. But let me see what it looks like from the inside. Let me speak to the nurses. I need to speak to how can I do that? Well, if I go into the system, I can do that. So I went into disability support with the intention of, I'll show up authentically as me and I will get provided first-hand knowledge of these things. And I sort of dismissively said it. Like I say it now as if that was like, yes, that's a clear intention. That's what it's a thought. I just thought it. I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. All right. And the job meeting, I was like, I'm going to practice speaking my boundaries, speaking about all my value, making sure I feel valued, feel received, feel heard, feel seen. If I don't feel any of that or there's any red flags, I'll just walk away. That's all good. That was all sweet. That part all went great. Everything went perfect in this job interview. And I was like, I've never had anything like go like this. Okay. And then my first couple of clients started to happen. And then it was, oh, you're going to deal with an alcoholic as it is. And it wasn't, I was deep in working with this client and it was highlighting for me how alcohol is everywhere, right? Especially post-pandemic world, there is hand sanitizers everywhere, right? And I already had an awareness through other areas of my life where I worked in Darwin and stuff, and I witnessed people addicted to substances, and I witnessed people drinking at the time drinking like Listerine with Red Bull, or we didn't have alcoholic metho and that sort of thing on the shelves. Like I was in Darwin, so there's a lot of homeless and a lot of injured and people in pain, and that was what they were using to mask their pain of all cultures. I'd witnessed that there. So I was aware of that. However, now working in today's world, I didn't realise that there's hand sanitizer everywhere. And if you're really in that much pain that you're, and to witness it and hear like the eyes glass over of a person and it not, in an old ancient time you maybe call it possession, right? They might have called it that, but they're different. The person shifts and changes. Now knowing when I see that, I see the person change and then see their voice change, the tone of their voice change, their posture change, where it is I need that. Their body is in that much of pain that they know that if they have some alcohol, it'll relieve that pain. And consequently, at the same time, know that the alcohol is killing them. And they've got physical health issues to showing that if they do drink, they've got stomach ulcers, whatever issues they've got. But witnessing this demon play out like this, and I was like, holy, and I'll use the language of a demon, it's dark energy of alcohol. And I was like, holy shit. And got to work through that. And I remember it was like day 3. And it was end of day 2. I'd now been with this person 24 hours solid. And I was getting my first sort of like reprieve to go refuel myself. Because it was meant to be a non-active nighttime shift, but the person was in that alcohol state, turned into an active shift. So I was also like, okay, and I was like, okay, we need to organise something. They organised so they could relieve me, because I voiced, no, I'm feeling drained. I need a reset. I can't stay on right now. Let's relieve me. And then in the back of my head also was like, legally, Chris, you can't just keep working. They can't just have you constantly work. Like all this sort of stuff, right? The law and also my own boundaries going like, no, I need to have a cold shower. I want to eat. I'll have a nap. Energize, disconnect from this completely and sit with it. And I did that, spoke into it for one. So great. Then the action took place. Then I got that. Then I did the thing of like, okay, I went home and, had the cold shower, had something nice to eat, had a nap, connected back in with my partner, connected back in with my fur baby, like all the things, like feel myself, like grounded myself and did some meditation and did like all the different things, right? And I was like in this energy of almost like, what the fuck am I doing? And then came the awareness, oh, you asked for this, Chris. You are. And then it was like, oh, fuck. Like, be aware of your thoughts, Christopher, because they manifest into reality. And sometimes this quickly. You wanted hands-on experience, guess what? Right away. And also the gratitude piece that I was able to handle everything through. I was able to be calm, controlled in times of moments of the client running away or trying to sneak alcohol. I was able to do all the different things that theoretically, if you looked at my life experience on paper, you could probably say, oh yeah, he could do that, but I was actually able to live it. So all this amazing shit, I was like, do I want to go back in there? Yes. I want to actually see what happens. I want to commit to this. And I did, and I saw the change. Witnessed this man then in complete and utter tears, sharing, and it was like everything changed, and they were like raw and authentic and everything. And I was like, there you are. Because that was what I witnessed when I first picked this brother up, and I was like, great. But this brother had gone for 24 hours. I wasn't aware at the time that alcohol had gotten in, he'd snuck it in. And I was like, oh! And then it was back. And I was like, oh, fuck. And I was like, how many people are out there like this? Not obviously, this is the extreme. This is the medical induced, going to hospital, almost going into psychosis, like the extreme of alcoholism, or on the verge of death. But this is where it can go. Oh. And yet also, I could easily, in the past, have written that person off as, oh, they're an alcoholic, or they just need to go in the system. Yet in those realness moments, be like, here's someone who's actually committed to wanting to be better, wanting to, yet through talking to him as well, his experience, his life stuff, his environment. It's like, fuck. He got given a shitty roll of the dice, and also he wanted to work on his stuff. And so it's like, was around, okay, then was talking to people, okay, how do we create an environment that's more sustainable, safer for everyone, that can create that change and healing. And it was like, great. And then I got another next, then it was like my body was going through all these ticks. My first couple of clients, it was like, okay, extreme addiction, tick, medical system, halfway. Oh, okay, well, halfway, okay. Your next client, someone that's been admitted into mental health. Okay, cool. Medical health system, tick. Let's go. Health system, to see again, it's the same thing. It was another person who at the time had exhibited symptoms of what you'd call mental health. Yet realistically, when speaking with this brother, I could see the humanness and see the soul, and they were able to, and then realizing, fuck, now I have to go through the mental health system because of my choices, and owning that sort of thing too. With the conundrum of this person being in a situation where they could die at any moment because of their other illnesses that they have. So again, the extreme of the extreme. Someone having to take rational ownership on their shit right now. Otherwise, whether it's their last week, month, 6 months, 2 years of their life is going to be completely shit because of a moment, or even after making that choice in that moment, with everything that's going on, they still could then choose to, I'm going to listen to this type of music, and we're going to do this, and we're going to improve that scenario. So I've been in this field of, and I was like, great. Also, there's good pay with working in that system too. So I was like, oh, this is great. I'm actually getting paid okay. And more clients started coming in at the same time too. As I'm more speaking authentically, people were reaching out to me. And I had people referred to me, oh, Chris, this person could really do with has come up with they were doing a lot of work and they want really a deep dive in breath work. And I was like, great, cool. So at the same time, it was showing me that if I just, and I hadn't started the men's stuff then, but I was like, let's just keep learning. But it was showing me that in real time, what my thoughts are going to come into reality, right? And okay, I want to learn some more things for the big work of working with the next generations and helping children. What do I need to learn now? What do I need to experience now? What do I need to learn now? Great. And now I'm in this space where I've got this availability to create this online men's circle, to have other elders, other men around me that A, can support me and I can support them, for then creating a space for the everyday person, the person that maybe is still going to the pub every day or every week, or is still in their cycles or whatever, that just wants to start the ball rolling and see how that looks. So I created that. And that's growing now. And it's growing, and the calls are growing, and we're in like week 3, so it's really early in its infancy, right? The calls are growing in that. I'm able to share what I'm loving with my stuff. When I share, and this keeps getting highlighted, as I share stuff that's alive and from my heart, the universe, I call it the universe, will then shows back to me like a thank you. It might not be in the analytics of like, oh, your post has this many likes or views. I'll get a DM or a call from someone in the 11th hour or something. That's something that I said resonated with them, and now they're at this stage that they're making radical change or they're committing to change. And then I'll be like, I'll offer them, again, now I have something that I can offer to those men and those brothers when they have no money, or when they're not in a stage where they believe they don't have the money for it. They've got money for whatever else they're spending on, alcohol or whatever it is, but they're not ready to commit to themselves yet. Because myself, even then, to the level that I value myself is to the level that I'm willing to spend money on myself, right? So, great. I can have that there. And at the same time that now this has been growing in the last 3 weeks, the other side has been growing. Now I've recently just gone back into the corporate side, where straight away it's a person who I've done the corporate with before. Now I'm there. All right, you're going to be a headmaster coach. I speak again from heart. I recognize for all the things that I've done. Here's the value, in even like a monetary value of recognizing you. And also, here's another platform to build my presence and growth in the business side in corporate, where CEOs and everyone have money, where they have the funding. So I'm like, great, that's the money side, which gives me the availability to continue to do more and more and give more and more. And as I give more and more, this one grows more and more. So it's not that and that giving is from my overflow, is genuinely from my overflow. And I can talk into everything. I can be real and create that space. And I can be here and be of service in the business aspect. I can be in my entrepreneurial self. I can be in a coaching place. I can be then around people that have maybe started doing some work on themselves in the gym or in other areas of their life, and they're ready. What's that next level of self-development, or men masculine work, or trauma, working on their past traumas or their stories that are coming up, or even their shadow. They're realizing, when I do X, Y keeps happening. Well, let's look at Y, right? And go behind what's behind that, right? And they're ready to do that now. And I'm getting more people that are ready to do that. So I'm like, thank you, universe. Again, is this beautiful reminder that, and it's because it's all linked in to this big picture. Because you can do the same time. And as I'm meeting and I meet new people, that then I'm noticing that it inspires them to do more things. It creates like this ripple effect. right? Other brothers and that, like yourself, start doing more of their stuff, start showing up more of their stuff. Don't even like have to work in a coaching center. We just be around each other of other brothers that are working on their shit, and it has an effect. It is how powerful your environment is what's really being highlighted to me. And the environment is not just outside environment. Like, what am I watching? What am I listening to? What am I eating? What am I speaking? Right? Who are the people that I'm around that are physically in my environment? Right? What is the environment, like the nature, right? Am I connecting in with nature? Like the conversations that I have, am I just allowing myself to slip into old patterns of conversations? Like, I've been on the job sites, I've been in hospitality, I have been in corporate, I've been in like all these different hats and worn these different hats, whether it's business, whether it's construction, or then like management construction, whether it's retail and then like management of retail, whether it's hospitality in being a dish pig, or whether it's running a hospitality cafe. Had all these different hats, and each one of those, like, they're all little different environments, right? And they all have their own language that sort of has grown up in them. Or like being in a small town, or being in the city, in Sydney, in the city, or being here on the Gold Coast, or being in Darwin. Like, they're all little environments, and inside them there's all little environments. And it's easy, I've noticed, it's easy to get caught up in that environment and notice that everyone else is calling each other Steve-O, Dave-O, whatever, and it's Chris-O. Or I'll just surrender, like, as with now, the place, and I've done that a lot in the past, just unconsciously, it just happens, right? And that's what we do. We're just little unconscious bodies where we're not really aware of all this stuff. Even, we do that in the 0 to 7 years old, but even as adults, we can still be little unconscious minds that are just doing that. Still, energetically speaking, and we are doing that. Even now that I'm aware of it, yesterday, the TV was on at a client's place, and on the news and this sort of thing's just playing in the background, and I start noticing feelings in my body. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And I look over, and there it is. And then I listen, then I tune in and check into what they're talking about. Oh, this is what's cool, and this is what's, turn it off, and instantly my whole body just goes, oh, was that simple? I don't have a TV in the house for a reason. I don't need one right now. Or didn't have a TV in my house. In full authenticity, we just got one this week, and it's on a TV stand, so it can be wheeled around. And that's because moving forward, we can see it as a tool, right? Where we can utilize it when we have people over, we can play YouTube, or I can have visionary art playing, and these sorts of things. And also, my partner and I still do disability support, so there's also the opportunity in the house we have to have clients there, and they're still meeting people where they're at. They're still at that where they like to watch YouTube or something like that as a wind down, or whatever they call it, a wind down for themselves or something. Great, so we have that available to them. I'm not about forcing my belief structure or my life onto others, right? Because that's resistance. That's where you get the resistance.
Yep.
If I can authentically show up as me, which is from this place, repeatedly, from a place of non-judgment, the best I can. Again, being the best I can at that moment. Repeatedly show up like that, with my heart open, that I then feel I can then have, and compassion, can see where they're at and be like, yeah, no worries, I can put the TV. And also, if you're going to have the TV on, that's great, you can have it on there, and I'm going to go over here, type thing, right? And if they want me to, client-wise, if they want me to sit with them while they're doing something, then I can suggest different things. And if it's something that I really don't really don't want to be in that energy of, I can voice that as well, right? And with a client, I get that sometimes that can be hard in disability support or whatever your job is. Sometimes, like, the environment, I can't really change that. You can. Right? I've recently, a client's just finished that I was working with, this voice support, and I'm like, it's like this, because I recognise there's a lot of things happening there, and there's a lot of secondary gain to a lot of things, and so it's not, all right, it's not something I want to continue to be in. The client may love it when I'm there, however, I'm also like, great, and they've moved to a different company, there's other people now that can support you in that, brother. Right, and in the future, great, you can always reach out, ever. And right now, where you're at now, they're going to actually be the people that are going to best provide to you. In my personal life with clients, people reach out to me, I'll say, let's just have a yarn about whatever it is, and I'll let you, and you can also get a vibe for me, because I'll show up authentically, and I'm very, 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 almost to a fault, happy to go, this isn't me. Here's this brother or sister that I can recommend them to, right? And say, go try that. Or just go watch this video or go watch that. And then if something comes to you from that, then reach out, right? Perhaps, and I know in the past it's been to a fault. I could have gone, oh, that client, that's X amount of money walking away, or I could have helped them. But there's also, it doesn't feel authentically right for me. So if something's off, it's a no. And perhaps that offness might be something that I need to work on myself before I'm ready to work on someone that's showing that. They might show something up, which is the great thing I learned from a lot of men's work and from a lot of group facilitations. And this sort of thing is that often when one person in a group speaks something, they're like the conduit or the vessel to speak that's happening in the collective. There's normally more than one person feeling that same thing. And there's beautiful experiences and stuff I've done, and I've seen other people facilitating groups that help really break that barrier down, which is some fun workshops I'm excited to do in the future, to share that sort of fun in a fun way, because fun is also, it is our highest vibration, like higher enlightenment and everything is our fun and play. And that's also scientifically is where the brain neurons are firing. It's where everything's neuroplasticity is at its highest.
Neurogenesis is happening.
Everything, right? So it's when we grow. It's when we learn. It's when we are able to receive things. Even unconsciously, then we're unconsciously receiving these beautiful lessons. So, moving forward, that's what I'm excited to do more of that, to show up and step towards my edges. Notice where it's an edge. Have these tools that I am able to go through and do a check-in and be like, okay, is this coming up in my body now because it's an edge and it's something like my next edge to start learning and leaning towards, or is it a full body no, like it's a no, and a no is just a not right now, all right? In the consent world, a no is a no because it's no, but again, even then it's no, not right now. That person 6 months, 12 months, a week, an hour later with the correct tools and correct awareness may also be like, oh, now it's a yes for whatever that is. And that consent could be to yes to a handshake, right? We're not talking like it has to be something fully explicit and sexual. It could just be yes to yes, and now I'm actually open for a hug now. I was noticing I wasn't ready for a hug. I had a drink of water. I've had a couple of breaths, or I've just gone for a little walk. We've gone for a walk and talk, and they're like, actually, I'd really love a hug right now. Great. Yeah? And that maybe a full no at the time. And also the continual thing of like, how is this me? Knowing that we are all connected, right? If someone's come into my awareness, I now believe that they've come in for a reason.
So I want... where you're at right now, those last few beautiful things talking about the yes, the no, the consent. I want to leave this here as a part one.
Okay.
Because I feel like I'd love to offer the space for you to be able to talk directly to them and say what you've just spoken about the yes, about the no, wherever you're at. This might be not right now. This is a no for right now. But I want you to talk directly to everyone that's paying attention to come in when they're ready. To come into your circle, to come into whatever it is. Because I feel like that's a good spot to invite some people to come and see all that is with you and around you.
That's it. And that really is, it is a part of like my genius, I'd call it my genius, is that I have friends on all walks of life and connections and beautiful people that I hold dear in my heart, even from different times of my life, that I feel a really strong heartfelt connection to them, and then I encourage these conversations. Right, it's biggest commitment I made this year, at the start of the year, was it was actually just after Christmas, so it was just before the New Year's resolutions type thing. But it was that energetically time of the year. It's that solstice time, right? I was like, let's go for conversations this year with people where we talk about things that we're doing or things that we're feeling rather than people. Yeah, and I'm all for that, and on all backgrounds, on all topics. Because I know there's learning for that in me personally.
Yeah,
and also it's a way to find where some edges are, perhaps where something comes up and I go, oh, that is a no for me right now. No, I don't want to talk about that. Cool. For me now, I notice all that. At the time when it happens, I'm like, fuck. No, it's a no, and maybe I might at the time I might even know some aggression. Be like, no, I don't want to talk about that right now. Thank you, and I have language now to communicate that and be like, no, it's a respectful no. Yet, then I know that I'll go away from that, and go work on that myself and work out where that is, knowing that I can then choose to come back. May not be with that exact person, or maybe to come back to that topic. Because if there's something that's come up as a full no, it's like, okay, what is this learning in it for me? Where is this learning in it for me, right? Yep. As long as it's, again, I have my main morals-y type, you call it like ecological type scenarios, right? No harming others and harming nature and harming these sort of things, right? Like I eat meat.
Yep.
Yes. I have been vegetarian, I have been vegan. For different areas, and now I consciously choose to eat meat. And I'm on this journey now of bringing awareness to all the food that I eat, because I did it as an experiment, bro. I was like, what if I was a bit more grateful for my food, and what if I just notice then what happens, and I feel better. So it's something that I then ask people, that if questions come up for them, or something, a feeling, a question, a thought, something's come up, notice it, witness it like a breath, or witness it like a passing cloud, and then you then have the opportunity to then, from a place of curiosity, be like, what if he's correct? Or what if there's something there for me to learn? Or what if a story I've been told in the past might have been right then, but now there's new information? Like from a place of curiosity. And that's all I ever ask, is that if anyone in my circle, anyone that wants to come and say hi, just show up with curiosity, I'm all for that. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Let that be the open invitation for you to show up authentically for whatever's present, and be curious, because that space it's remarkable. When you can get past the boundary of your vulnerability of showing up without any armor on, of being seen as you are, warts and all, and be held in that space. It's a beautiful thing, and show up with like that childlike curiosity.
Yeah.
That's the one.
It's exactly it, bro. Exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Allow that to be your open invitation. I'm going to put Chris's links down in the descriptions.
Yep.
Dive in.
Cool.
Dive in, guys. And keep your eyes and ears open for much more amazing stuff between us in the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just getting the ball rolling, guys. Getting that ball rolling.
Like the ripples are only just beginning. So thank you so much for being here, guys. Until I see you next week, much love. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with me today. Thank you for subscribing and leaving a review. It really helps us out. Until next time, take care and much love.